it's Lisa. Well, it's about time. I have nearly run through another notebook. I know there's a real planner craze going on. I even went to the office supply store and looked at some of the planners. I've looked online, but I'm just not that structured anymore in my life, or maybe I just don't have that many things to schedule. And of course, I like having my computer-based schedule. So I still love to have a notebook for making lists and recording things I've done or things I'm going to do, but I need it a lot more freeform. So I've decided not to go the planner route, to just use the same notebooks I always use. I get these at Office Max. It's the only place I've found them. They are a Mead notebook, the Cambridge brand, which is pretty popular with Mead, but for some reason I can only find these at Office Max. But the concept here would work with any notebook. The reason I like them is they have ruled sheets on one side and grid sheets on the other, so if I want to sketch something out, not being able to draw a straight line, those grids really come in handy. These have a cover that's removable, so I always use the cover to help me lay out my my little holes. But it dawned on me that I have the Silhouette now, and maybe I could cut all those holes electronically, and especially since I do these notebooks regularly, I wouldn't have to do it the old-fashioned way with a hole punch, and I did. So I've set up this little file on the Silhouette, and if you happen to have the same kind of notebook, I'm going to make this available over on my blog, a link to it for the Silhouette. And my little test one here, I had to do two. The first one I didn't quite have right, and then the second time it worked great. So, and now that I know how to do this, set up the little holes and do, duplicate a notebook, I could do it with other kinds. So I may try to find some other popular notebook styles and do that at some point. But for right now, I have this one, and I'll make that available on my blog. So I just need to figure out what I'm going to put on my notebook. I've been doing a lot of mixed media kinds of things. I did my last notebook that way though, and in the spirit of trying to use up some stuff this summer, I thought I would just do this one with pattern papers and die cuts and that kind of stuff. I have this collection, the recorded collection from Webster's Pages. This was something I think I got last fall. And I have a couple of sheets of full sheets left, and then I just have bits and pieces and then some 6x6. So I think this notebook would be a great place to use some of this paper. This yellow is really pretty, but with the inside already being yellow, I think that's maybe a little more yellow than I want for the front cover. It's tempting because I like the pattern, but I'm just not real sure about it. One thing I had quite a bit left of was this wood grain. It's not hardly big enough to really wrap the corners, but the other thing, I can use this in my other scrapbooking, so I'm going to put those aside. Now let's see, what's on the back of the... No, that's not what I want. What I originally reached for was this paper, and then I thought it was too busy. It does have this today wording on the back, but I think I'm going to go with this. I may just add, I'll be adding quite a bit to the front cover. So I'm going to take this to the Silhouette and cut out a full-size version of that front cover, and then we're going to be putting some other things on there. I have some of this that I might cut up and use one way or the other on the front cover, and then there's all these small patterns that would be a good scale for the notebook. Because I like to be able to open my spiral notebook and turn it all the way around and write, I don't want anything real thick on the front cover, so thickers are out, but I do have an old set of stickers from Basic Gray that match, so we'll take a look at those maybe for part of some of the wording that I'm going to put on the front cover. And then I have these, and that's a really pretty background too. It's not quite, well, if I turned it, it would work. No, I think I'll stick with the other one. But anyway, I have some of the journaling cards too that I could use. So I've got lots of pretty materials, but I think the first step is going to be to cut this with the Silhouette. Now, if you don't have a Silhouette, you can still do this. I have done many of these covers without having the Silhouette and just cutting these and hole punching them manually. I have a separate video on that, and I will be sure and link it to this one so you can see that, because it's, unlikely you'd have exactly the same size notebook that I do. This paper is kind of thick, so I'm having to sort of manually pop these little holes out there. But they're cut through. They're just not coming all the way out. The other thing you could do is kind of forget about the holes altogether and run your paper right up to the edge, and then just glue it on that way. So that would also work. So you don't really have to make the paper go all the way under the spiral part, but it looks nice. when you do. So I'm going to pop all these out, and then I'll show you how you would attach it. And this works whether you are using a hole punch to punch your holes or doing it through the silhouette. Okay, I've got it off the mat and all the little holes popped out. So I'm just going to be putting it down onto the front and pressing each of these little cut sections down in between the spiral rings. Okay, I'm going to speed this along here a little bit, getting all of these little holes around the spiral rings, and then I've just put a little bit of liquid glue in between the spiral part onto the cover of the notebook. And I'll pull the designer paper back over and just make sure everything's lined up good. I use my bone folder to press each of those little bits of paper down in between the rings, and so it's all lined up good. And it's easy to move at this point, so I'm going to set it aside to dry. I'm pulling out some stickers, and I'm not going to belabor this part because I don't end up using these. I thought I would be using, I was going to be making this phrase that started out with progress, so I thought I was going to be using these big letters, and I even considered using the numbers for the date, and I didn't end up using those letters. You'll see them again later on. That's why I kind of left that little bit in the video, but it was part of my thought process. I do want to use some of the chevron, so I started cutting here, figuring that I would take some of the burgundy and maybe that pink strip. I've done that on a layout before and it's really pretty, so I thought I would do that on the front of this notebook. And the little bit that I had left on the end, I really like the best. So that's what I'm considering using instead of the chevron part. It won't wrap all the way around. There's not quite enough of it there, but it will go all the way top to bottom. And I'm picking out some other pieces. I like some of these little journaling cards that come in the 6x6 pads. I think some of these are really good, and I'm looking at this wood grain paper, maybe to, again, because I'm still considering that progress, not perfection in stickers, and I thought that might look good on the wood grain paper. But I found this little green card, and I started thinking that this progress thing is not going to fit, that maybe I can print my words onto that card. But the glue is dried on the front cover, so I'm going to go ahead and score this paper, just fold it. I have scored them on the scoreboard before, but that can be a little bit too much, and then the paper will try to tear on me, so I really prefer just to fold them over. This Webster's Pages pattern paper is pretty thick. A good medium weight paper like American Crafts weight is usually really good for this. Some of the papers like My Mind's Eye, the ones that have texture to them, are almost too thick, so this one's kind of borderline, but it did work out nicely. And I'm adding some double-sided tape. This is Creative Memories. You could use the red sticky tape or any double-sided tape that you wanted. I don't know if Creative Memories still sells this or not. A roll of it lasts forever, so I guess I'll worry about that when I finally run out of it. Okay, we'll get the last of the tape on there, and the cover will be, or the cover will be covered. And then we can add all of the little journaling cards and other embellishment and try to keep it as flat as possible. Okay, so I picked out a couple of other little cards that I liked, and this is where I really decided to just go ahead and print on Progress Not Perfection onto the little card. Before I print it, I'm going to mark with pencil where I should not be printing at, so I can plan this over on my computer. with these journaling cards. Of course, I only get one shot to get it printed the way I want it to. And I thought it would be nice to have a little bit of ribbon. I do like to use ribbon or washi tape on the front of these with lots of adhesive on them because they're flat and they still give me a little bit of extra texture and color. I think though it needs to be between the pink and the green rather than over on the other side of the pink and the green. So after I get some distressing with some crumb cake ink on all these cards, then I'll split that border paper and put the yellow ribbon in between the pink part and the green part. I'll just glue this on with some liquid adhesive. I do really try to glue this stuff down on these notebooks very well because I use my notebooks for at least 6 months, sometimes 9 months, and I use them every day, so they get a lot of wear. So I put a fair amount of liquid glue usually on them to hold everything in place. And this will be glued around on each end. It's kind of a light glue on the front, and then I'll just put glue on the inside as well, and I'll be covering the inside with some other pattern paper. Okay, and I need something, a few more embellishments here, so I'm going to go look at my sticker drawer and see what I've got. These, I had some stickers there. There was one I loved the shape of, but just wasn't the right color. So these are from Basic Gray. It's an old collection. I like the flower, and I'm looking for a corresponding flower, and I don't really have anything. I do have this red bow. I've got the bird cage. That's a possibility. The red bow was a little overwhelming. It's just too bright. But there are some bows in a little piece of border that I've never used, and I end up cutting one of those out and using it at the top of the bird cage. Now it needs a little bit more color, and I of course wanted to use buttons, but buttons just aren't flat enough. But I punched out some yellow paper, but I really like the middle part of that flower, so I thought I'd just color over it with a yellow marker. It's a permanent marker from Faber-Castell. And then write in the date, and it'll be finished up. And this is going to go, I'm sure, 2014, 2015. But there is our notebook. And I do add some paper to the inside of it, which you'll see a photo of here in just a moment. I've also got my washi tape out because one of the trends, of course, in doing all the planner stuff is to add some washi tape to the pages. I think I may just add some to the very edges of like the first page of each month to help divide them. My grandmother was always superstitious that you didn't turn your calendar over until the new month. So I don't like to do a lot to my notebooks until it's really, really time to start using them, at least on the inside. Thank you so much for watching today. There are links, of course, here to the silhouette file or to my blog where the silhouette file is, and also to the other videos if you don't have a silhouette for how you can do the little hole punch. Thanks so much. Bye.